The key clicked in the lock of apartment 1505, and I held my breath. After 6 months of searching, countless bidding wars, and finally paying $50,000 over the asking price, I was about to step into my dream home. The listing photos had shown gleaming hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows with city views, and an open-concept kitchen that would make any chef jealous. "I'm sure you'll love it, Miss Thompson." Sarah, my realtor, beamed beside me. "It's exactly what you wanted." I pushed open the door, expecting to smell fresh paint and new carpeting. Instead, the aroma of pot roast hit me. My stomach dropped as I heard familiar voices and the clink of silverware. "Oh, look who finally showed up," my mother's voice carried from the dining area. "We've been waiting for you, Emma." I stood frozen in the doorway. There, around a table I'd never seen before, sat my entire estranged family: Mom, Dad, my younger sister Olivia, and even my brother Marcus. They were eating dinner as if this were the most normal thing in the world. What are you doing here?" I managed to stammer. "How did you get in?" Sarah looked between me and my family, confusion evident on her face. "Miss Thompson, do you know these people?" "Unfortunately," I muttered. Olivia stood up, wiping her mouth with a napkin. Emma always did have a flair for the dramatic. "We live here, obviously." She turned to Sarah. "I'm Olivia Thompson, Emma's sister. Thank you for showing her our apartment." "Your apartment?" I pulled out my phone, bringing up the purchase documents. "I bought this place. I have the paperwork right here." Dad finally looked up from his plate. "No, sweetheart. You bought into our family trust. The apartment belongs to all of us." The room started spinning. I grabbed the doorframe for support. "Sarah, what's going on?" My realtor looked uncomfortable. "The sale was processed through Thompson Family Holdings." "I assumed you knew, since it's your last name." "I need air," I muttered, turning and practically running toward the elevator. Behind me, I heard my mother call out, "Dinner's getting cold. Emma, don't be difficult." In the lobby, I paced back and forth, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I hadn't spoken to my family in 3 years, not since the incident that tore us apart. Now here they were, somehow inserted into the one thing that was supposed to be mine alone. Sarah caught up with me, looking worried. "Miss Thompson, I am so sorry. I had no idea there was a family dispute involved. The paperwork all seemed in order." "Please," I held up a hand. "Just get me copies of everything. Every document, every form, every signature. I need to understand how this happened." Back in my hotel room, where I'd been staying while waiting to move into what I thought would be my new home, I spread the documents across the bed. Purchase agreement, deed, mortgage papers. Everything was in my name, but with one crucial detail I'd somehow missed. It was all under Thompson Family Holdings, LLC. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. "Your old room is ready whenever you want to stop being dramatic." I threw the phone across the room. 3 years ago, I'd walked away from my family's manipulation and control. I built my own life, started a successful marketing firm, and saved every penny for this apartment. Now somehow, they'd managed to turn my dream into their latest power play. Another buzz, this time from my mother. "Emma, darling, we did this for your own good. You've been so distant. This way, we can be a family again." I laughed bitterly. A family. Right. Like we were a family when they tried to force me to marry my father's business partner's son. Or when they borrowed my college fund to bail out Marcus's failed startup. Or when a knock at my hotel room door interrupted my thoughts. Through the peephole, I saw my father standing there, still in his dinner clothes. "Go away," I called through the door. "Emma, be reasonable." His voice was that familiar mix of authority and condescension that used to make me feel 2 inches tall. "We need to talk about this like adults." "Adults?" I yanked open the door. "Adults don't hijack their daughter's property purchase." He stepped into the room uninvited, looking around at the scattered papers. "We didn't hijack anything. We simply ensured the property stayed in the family. You're still an owner." "Along with everyone else," I spat. "How did you even know I was buying it?" He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "Your mother may have maintained some connections at certain real estate firms. When we heard you were house hunting, you decided to insert yourselves into my life again." I crossed my arms. "Did you ever think maybe there was a reason I haven't spoken to any of you in 3 years? That's exactly why we did this." He ran a hand through his graying hair. You can't just cut off family, Emma. We're blood. We're all we have. No, I said quietly. You're all you have. I have myself. I have the life I built without you. And I'm calling a lawyer in the morning. His face hardened. Don't be foolish. The purchase is legal and binding. Besides, your mother is thrilled to have you home. She's already planning family dinners every Sunday. I'm at home. I cut him off. I'm not anywhere near home. And if you think this little scheme of yours is going to work, you don't know me at all anymore. He reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Emma, get out. After you left, I sat on the hotel bed, surrounded by papers that represented my dreams turned nightmare. But as I stared at the documents, something started nagging at me. Something about the way the trust was structured. I grabbed my laptop and started researching. Thompson Family Holdings, LLC. The name triggered a memory. Years ago, before I'd left, I'd overheard my parents talking about setting up a family trust. They'd wanted to protect their assets from taxes, but something had gone wrong with the paperwork. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I dug deeper. There, articles of incorporation filed 3 years ago, just after I'd left. The timing couldn't be coincidental. I pulled up my banking records next. The down payment for the apartment had come from my personal account, not the family trust. And the mortgage, I squinted at the fine print. The mortgage was in my name alone. A slow smile spread across my face as I realized what this meant. They might have manipulated the purchase, but they'd made a crucial mistake, one that would cost them everything they thought they'd gained. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Marcus. Mom wants to know what color you want your bedroom painted. She's thinking pale blue like when we were kids. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in years. Someone who knew exactly how my family operated and who had the legal expertise to help me turn their scheme against them. Hello, Uncle James. It's Emma. Remember when you offered to help me if I ever needed to deal with Mom and Dad? Well, I think it's time to cash in that favor. Uncle James's corner office overlooked the city skyline, and somewhere in that maze of buildings, my family was probably still sitting around the dining table in my apartment, thinking they'd won. So, Uncle James leaned back in his leather chair, reviewing the documents I'd spread across his desk. They pulled you back in through real estate. Classic Margaret and Robert. He shook his head, mentioning my parents' names with familiar disapproval. As my mother's younger brother and a prominent real estate attorney, James had watched my family's manipulation tactics for years. He'd been the only one who supported my decision to leave 3 years ago. Here's what they didn't count on, he said, pulling out a specific document. The mortgage is solely in your name, Emma. You're the only one liable for the payments. And that helps me how? A smile crossed his face. Who do you think is going to make those payments? Your parents assumed you'd be forced to move in to protect your investment. But legally, you have no obligation to live there. They, however, are now technically squatting in a property they can't afford. I sat up straighter. So I could. Evict them? Yes. He held up a hand as I started to speak. But that's not our best play. Look at this. He pointed to another clause in the documents. The family trust was created after you left, but they used your social security number as one of the founding members without your consent. Is that illegal? Very. They committed identity theft, even if they are your family. He shuffled through more papers. And here's where it gets interesting. The trust was set up with minimal capital. They're operating on borrowed money, using your credit without authorization. My phone buzzed. Another text from Olivia. Mom made up your bed with your old sheets. Stop being stubborn and come home. I showed James the message. He frowned. They really haven't changed, have they? Still trying to infantilize you. So what do we do? First, he said, reaching for his phone, we file a fraud alert with the credit bureaus. Then we contact the mortgage company to inform them of the situation. But most importantly, he gave me a significant look. We don't let them know we're doing any of this. Over the next week, I played along. I did move in, claiming I needed time to process the situation. But I didn't fight them either. Mom kept sending photos of my room, my old furniture somehow transported to the apartment, my childhood photos arranged just so. We kept everything exactly as you left it, she cooed during one of her daily calls. It's like you never left. That was exactly what I was afraid of. Dad tried a different approach, talking about how the family could use my business expertise. The trust has other properties, he mentioned casually. With your marketing skills, we could really build something together. I made noncommittal noises while James's team quietly gathered evidence. The identity theft, the fraudulent use of my information, the unauthorized credit checks. It was all documented, all building towards something they'd never see coming. Marcus was the only one who seemed suspicious. "You're taking this too well," he said when he cornered me at a coffee shop. "What are you planning?" "Nothing," I smiled. "Just accepting that you can't fight family, right?" He didn't believe me, but he also couldn't prove anything was wrong. Meanwhile, James had discovered something even bigger. "They've done this before," he told me during our third meeting. "Not just to you. There are 5 other properties in the trust, all purchased using variations of the same scheme. Different family members' information, all without consent. Including yours." He nodded grimly. "They tried to use my details too, but I caught it in time. Others weren't so lucky. Your cousin Patricia's credit is ruined because of them." I remembered Patricia, who'd mysteriously stopped coming to family functions 2 years ago. Now I knew why. The pieces were falling into place, but we had to move carefully. One wrong step and they'd see it coming. So I played the dutiful daughter, attending their impromptu family dinners in my apartment, listening to their plans for our future. "We should renovate the kitchen," Mom declared one evening, gesturing at the already perfect appliances. "Make it more family-friendly." "And that spare room would make a great nursery," Olivia added with a pointed look at my still single status. I smiled and nodded while mentally reviewing the legal documents James had prepared. Everything was ready. We just needed the right moment. It came sooner than expected. Dad called a family meeting to discuss expanding the trust's property portfolio. They wanted to use my business's success as leverage for more loans. "Your credit rating is excellent," he said proudly, like it was his achievement. "With your numbers backing us, we could double our holdings by year's end." I sat at their dining table in my apartment and watched them plan how to use me all over again. Mom was talking about a brownstone she'd spotted. Olivia was sketching renovation plans. Marcus was calculating potential profits. My phone buzzed. A text from James, papers filed. Green light. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floors. "I have something to say." They looked up, annoyed at the interruption of their planning session. "Can it wait, dear?" Mom asked. "We're in the middle of something important." "No," I said firmly. "It can't wait. Because as of 10 minutes ago, Thompson Family Holdings no longer exists." The silence was deafening. "What are you talking about?" Dad's voice was dangerous and low. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. "The trust has been dissolved due to fraudulent formation and illegal use of personal information. All properties are being returned to their rightful owners or put into receivership pending investigation." "You can't do that," Marcus started, but I cut him off. "I already did. And that's not all." I looked each of them in the eye. "This apartment, it's mine. Only mine. The mortgage is in my name, and I have sole ownership. You have exactly 48 hours to vacate before I file formal eviction proceedings." Mom's face crumpled. "Emma, how could you? We're your family." "No," I said quietly. "You're people who used my identity to commit fraud. You're people who tried to trap me back into a life I escaped. You're people who hurt not just me, but others in our family. We did everything for you," Dad shouted, standing up so fast his chair fell backward. "Did you do it for Patricia too? For Uncle James? For all the others whose lives you damaged with your schemes?" Their faces told me they hadn't expected me to know about that. "Get out," I said calmly. "Now, take whatever belongs to you, only what actually belongs to you, and leave. If you're not gone in 48 hours, the police will be involved." "You'll regret this," Olivia hissed, but her face showed fear. She knew how serious this was. "No," I smiled. "I don't think I will." The next 48 hours were a symphony of chaos. My family cycled through every manipulation tactic in their playbook. Mom's tearful phone calls. "How could you do this to us? We'll be homeless." Dad's threats. "You'll never work in this city again." Olivia's social media campaign painting me as the ungrateful daughter who destroyed her family. Marcus's attempted guilt trips about his investment plans. I blocked them all. The furniture they'd moved in, including my childhood bedroom set, disappeared piece by piece. I watched from the building across the street as moving trucks came and went. With each item removed, I felt lighter. But they had one last card to play. On the morning of the second day, I received a call from my grandmother. I almost didn't answer, assuming it was another family ploy. But Gran had always been different. She'd been the one who secretly slipped me money for college when Dad had taken my fund. Emma, her voice was tired but clear. I just heard what Robert and Margaret did. I'm so sorry, dear. You're not going to try to convince me to forgive them. Heavens, no. She chuckled darkly. I'm calling to warn you. They're at my house now, trying to convince me to sign over my property to their new trust. They're desperate after losing everything. My blood ran cold. Don't sign anything, Gran. I'm sending Uncle James over right now. Oh, don't worry about me, she said, and I could hear the steel in her voice. I may be old, but I'm not stupid. In fact, she paused and I heard voices in the background. I've been recording everything they've said for the past hour. James might find it interesting. I called James immediately. He was already on his way to Gran's with 2 police officers. Apparently, my parents had been making some very specific threats about what would happen if she didn't cooperate. By sunset, both my parents were in custody, not just for what they tried with Gran, but for the pattern of financial fraud James had uncovered. Marcus and Olivia weren't arrested, but they were named in multiple civil suits. The house of cards they built was collapsing, and I watched it fall from my finally empty apartment. Standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the city lights flicker on as dusk settled. The view was exactly what I'd wanted when I'd first bid on this place. Now it was truly mine, no strings attached. My phone buzzed with a text from Gran. Having cocktails with James. We're celebrating. Come join us. I smiled, grabbed my keys, and headed out. In the elevator, I ran into my next-door neighbor for the first time. Oh hey, she said brightly. I'm Kate. Are you the one moving in? I was wondering about all the moving trucks these past few days. Actually, I replied, I'm the one moving in now that everyone else has moved out. She looked confused, so I added, it's a long story. Maybe I can tell you over coffee sometime. I'd like that, she smiled. Welcome to the building. For real this time. At the bar where James and Gran were waiting, 3 glasses of champagne were already poured. Gran raised hers in a toast. To fresh starts, she said, and to finally being free of those parasites. Gran. I laughed, shocked at her candor. What? I've been waiting 20 years to say that about your father. Ever since he married your mother and they started their little schemes. James raised his glass. To Emma, who didn't just break free, she saved others from falling into their trap. I thought about my cousin Patricia, whose credit we were now working to restore. About the other family members who'd been victimized. About Gran, who'd almost been their next target. To family, I said, raising my glass. The real kind. The ones who support you without trying to own you. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Olivia. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. I showed it to Gran and James, who both laughed. Should we tell her that her investment properties were actually just pyramid schemes? James asked. No, I smiled, deleting the message. Let her figure it out on her own. I'm done cleaning up their messes. Looking around the table at my real family, the ones who'd stood by me, who'd helped me fight back, who celebrated my freedom instead of trying to cage me, I finally felt at home. Not in the artificial way my parents had tried to create, but in the genuine way that comes from being with people who truly care about you. So Gran said, sipping her champagne, when are you having the proper housewarming party? In your apartment that's actually yours? Soon, I promised. Very soon. 3 months later, my transformed apartment buzzed with the energy of my housewarming party. Gone were my mother's heavy drapes and formal dining set, replaced with modern decor that reflected my personality. Kate, my neighbor-turned-close friend, mixed drinks in the kitchen while Gran entertained guests with stories by the floor-to-ceiling windows. The prosecutors couldn't believe the evidence trail. James was telling Patricia, who'd flown in for the celebration. Your aunt and uncle managed to implicate themselves in at least 12 different fraud schemes. Patricia, whose credit score was finally recovering, raised her glass. To justice. The doorbell rang, revealing Sarah, my former realtor, looking nervous with a wine bottle in hand. I hope it's okay that I came, after everything that happened. Come in, I smiled. You actually helped expose their scheme, even if you didn't know it at the time. The party flowed seamlessly, filled with genuine laughter and real connections, everything my family's forced dinners had lacked. My cousin Michael, who'd also been a victim of their financial manipulations, announced he was starting a support group for family fraud survivors. Around midnight, as the last guests were leaving, Gran pulled me aside. "You know, they're being released next week." I nodded. My parents' short sentence had been part of their plea deal, along with significant fines and restitution payments to their victims. Olivia and Marcus had avoided jail but were drowning in civil lawsuits. "They'll try to contact you," she warned. I know. I gazed out at the city lights. But I'm not worried. I'm stronger now. "Yes, you are." She squeezed my hand. "You know what the biggest difference is? You're not just free of them. You're thriving without them." She was right. My marketing firm had landed 3 major clients since the incident. I'd started teaching a financial literacy course at the community center. My apartment was finally, truly my home. The next morning, I received an email from my mother's new address. "We've changed. Please give us another chance." I didn't delete it. Instead, I printed it and added it to a folder labeled Evidence, just in case. Then I called Kate for our morning coffee ritual. Life moved forward. My building's community grew stronger. Weekly movie nights, shared dinners, genuine friendships. I helped Patricia launch her own business, free from family interference. Uncle James and I partnered to create a legal aid fund for victims of familial financial abuse. 6 months after the housewarming, I hosted another party, this time to celebrate my firm's expansion. Looking around at my chosen family, Gran telling jokes, Kate arranging flowers, James discussing legal reforms, Patricia showing off her new business cards, I realized something profound. My parents had always claimed family was about blood and obligation, but real family, I'd learned, was about choice and respect. It was about building connections that lifted you up instead of holding you down. As the evening wound down, Gran found me on the balcony. "You did good, kid," she said, clinking her glass against mine. "You built something beautiful here." We all did. I corrected her, watching my friends laugh inside. Together. The city sparkled below us, full of possibility. Somewhere out there, my biological family was plotting their next move, but their schemes couldn't touch me anymore. I had something better now, something real. "To new beginnings," Gran toasted. "To real family," I replied. And as we stood there, surrounded by the life I'd chosen and the family I'd built, I knew with absolute certainty that the best revenge wasn't destruction, it was creation. Creating a life so full and rich that there was no room for toxic patterns or manipulative love. I was finally truly home.